Hello colleagues, and welcome to this pre-recorded session, Introduction to Teaching the International BTEC Level 2 in Sport. I'm very happy to have you join me today, Marina Postlethwaite-Bowler. I'll be taking you through the session, the pre-recorded session today. Hope everybody is safe and well. So as I say, colleagues, my name is Marina. And I've popped a link on the slides there, which will take you straight to the Pearson International Level 2 Sport web pages, which I will, as the session goes on today, take you through a little guided tour of those as well. Top tip during this session, there'll be a few of those, colleagues, is to bookmark those links, because as educators we can be quite time poor and we need to find information in a timely fashion. So please do feel free to bookmark any links as we move through today's session. So the idea of this pre-recorded session is to explore the content and structure of the qualification, to understand grading of assignments, either authorised assignment briefs or Pearson set assignments, to write and to help you and assist you to write and deliver engaging assessments, to discuss how we plan, begin to plan or continue to plan if you're already delivering a successful BTEC programme. We're going to explore some of the quality assurance processes within the qualification. And then, because this is a pre-recorded session, I'll signpost you to some links and people that you can have an opportunity to ask further questions, to follow up on the session as you progress through the delivery and assessment of your BTEC International Level 2 in Sport. So, for those colleagues that are either new to the qualification and to BTEC qualifications, or indeed are more experienced with the delivery of these qualifications, I think it's timely just to remind you that BTEC qualifications are for our learners who've ideas around their career path, where they want to take the qualification, and indeed how they want to progress, perhaps to level 3 and then on to level 4 and 5 and then ultimately on to university, or indeed want to go into the workplace. Not all of our students go onto university. So a BTEC qualification gives our students, our learners, the skills and knowledge to follow their career aspirations. And this is really the essence of a vocational curriculum, is to allow students to develop their skills, experience, knowledge, and enhance their existing skills and knowledge, whether it be practically playing sport or experiencing some forms of coaching, or as a player or a participant, to really utilise and draw upon those in their toolbox of skills and expertise, and demonstrate and evidence those to gain a really, really worthwhile qualification. When we work with our students at level 2, we are encouraging and developing and supporting practical and active learning. Of course, it being a sports course, there's going to be that practical inherent element or elements, to think about vocational areas that students can move on to and into, whether that be in a specific sport or fitness or health and well-being activity, or indeed into more generic areas to do with sport, fitness, health and well-being. Or actually, in some cases, it may not be sport that they ultimately end up working in. It may be another vocational area, but they will still have a level 2 qualification. To develop newly found knowledge and to build on their knowledge and expertise that they have already. And then, as importantly, to build on those transferable skills, such as problem solving, teamwork, using their initiative, communication skills, whether that be online or in person, and creativity, you know, in terms of developing ideas and becoming a reflective practitioner, being able to reflect on the skills they have already and to reflect on new skills and areas that they can build upon, and also areas of challenge that they can build upon as well. So I think it's really important, you know, within that slide there, when we're talking about vocational education, is thinking about how you develop that. How do you build that into your curriculum? And how do you communicate those aspects of vocational curriculum to learners, to students, to parents, to caregivers, to the staff that are working on the programme, to potential students, and to students transitioning on to other levels of the qualification. So it's really important as a team, when you are developing or reflecting on what you already do, to really think about how you develop those skills within the course that you're offering. So just a timely reminder, colleagues, that all BTEC qualifications are modular and consist of units, that we have mandatory and optional units. BTEC units are assessed separately, so they have assessment criteria and learning aims in each of the units that you're delivering. And the unit grades, as we move towards the end of the academic year, are combined to create an overall qualification grade. And whether that is, whether you do that as an ongoing process, and I would certainly advise that the tracking of student grades is high up your quality assurance process and procedure, and then allowing learners, educators, parents, caregivers to actually be able to see how students are doing as they progress through the modules, and then to the units rather, and then to think about how those all come together to make up the overall qualification grade. And in the back of your specification, you will see that there are some worked examples, and really important to look at those with learners, so that they are completely aware of how they are doing at any point in time during their studies with you. The BTEC curriculum has a specification that we've just alluded to there, colleagues. And we work with Pearson set assignments. There are no examinations in the international specification of level 2 sport, or indeed any of the sports qualifications. We have Pearson set assignments at level 2 and 3, and then set themes at levels 4 and 5. Utilising the authorised assignment briefs, which we amend. We don't amend the Pearson set assignments, but we do work on amending and contextualising the authorised assignment briefs, and adapt those to make them more fit for purpose. They're templates, if you like. Internally assessed, so we mark, and assess all of the units internally, even though the Pearson set assignment is externally sent to us and set, we still mark that internally. We undertake an internal verification process and procedure, which we'll talk a little bit about later on. And you are allocated a standards verifier, an international standards verifier, who will work with you as a subject expert, who will work with you during the duration of the academic year. Your first point of call, who will assess the standards and check that the standards are being met, work with you and check the internal verification process, report and give you some feedback. And those reports can be built upon and utilised, ready for the next standards verification the following year. Or indeed, in some cases, some centres will have 2 standards verification, moderation, sampling periods during the year. And then, providing there are no compliance issues, that standards are being met, educators, centres can claim their certificates for learners and confirm success at the qualification. And I realise that some centres will be working on delivering this level 2 qualification over 1 year. Some will be doing it over 2 years. And indeed, we have centres that are working and delivering the qualification over a 3-year period. So at the end of whichever time period you're delivering, then the claiming of certificates can occur, providing that standards have been met. Feel free to pause this recording at any point that you want to sort of go off and have a brew, or indeed to check any documentation or recheck any learning, or have a discussion indeed amongst your team. That's the joy of a pre-record. You can put me on pause at any point. So what I've done here for you, colleagues, is to give you a sort of handy table, if you like, of the different sizes that are available at level 2 and indeed at level 3, because I think it's important to be able to think about students who are transitioning to level 3. Not all of our level 2 students do, of course, but I think to give you the whole holistic picture, that's what I wanted to do on this slide. The award, the smallest size of our qualification, is equivalent to 1 international GCSE. And those guided learning hours, and I've put classroom time in brackets there, but it's not just classroom time. It might be independent study. It may be that students are working on their assignments out of class. So the guided learning hours are exactly what they say on the tin. They're guided. But Pearson deem that 120 guided learning hours across whichever period you're delivering the award is the amount of hours that would be needed for the students to gain the knowledge and skills that they need to be successful with the assignments. And you'll see that each unit is broken down into a portion of guided learning hours, all of which add up to that 120, 240, 360 or 480 as the largest size qualification. Certificate is worth 2 international GCSEs, extended certificate is worth 3, and the diploma is worth 4 international GCSEs. And the age range can, of course, be older than that. We've had students who are more mature studying a level 2 qualification, and indeed a level 3. But that's just some guidance on there that might help you, and also can be exported and included in any student-facing information. So your student handbook, which I'm very keen to encourage colleagues to do a really robust student handbook with lots of information in that can be signed for by the learners and the parents or caregivers, in fact, to say that they've received the information, but something that you can use and add to and reflect upon during the course, because it's a really, really useful document to have to give students information, because a lot of our learners, and indeed parents or caregivers, will be a little bit unsure about what the qualification is about. Will ask why their son or daughter should study the qualification. And you want to be able to celebrate not only your own USPs, your unique selling points in the centre that you're working in, but also the benefits of the qualification, what it's worth, what it could lead on to. How does it fit indeed with the other qualifications that students may be studying alongside? So learners can be studying other BTEC qualifications, other IGCSEs, an IBAC or a CP programme. So there can be lots and lots of combinations, and every centre will run the course slightly differently according to the cohort of students, staffing levels, physical resources, and need for the qualification. So feel free to use that chart as you need to, colleagues. So that just reiterates the titles of the course, of the Level 2 course: Level 2 award, Level 2 certificate, Level 2 extended certificate, or indeed the Level 2 diploma. And diploma is the largest size qualification. I often get asked which is the most popular size of qualification really in the international space. And it's it depends on the centre. It's very much a politician's answer there, but it does depend on the centre and everything that I've mentioned before in terms of resources. But those are the sizes at the international Level 2 qualification. So what I've done for you here, colleagues, is extrapolated the structure of the qualification from the specification, just so you've got it on screen. I always find this is useful if you put it up on the whiteboard and you've got your team around, and when you're looking at units and you're discussing which units to run when, and the choice of units to fit into the size of qualification that you're offering. So the M's are the mandatory units, and indeed units 1, 2 and 3 are the Pearson set assignment units. And then units 4 to 16 are the units that have authorised assignment briefs as their template for assessment. And remember that authorised assignment briefs are the ones that we amend to make them more fit for purpose. We don't amend the Pearson set assignments. And then you've got the guided learning hour, suggested guided learning hours for those units. So from 30 to, it could be 30 or 60 at Level 2. And then in terms of the size of qualification, you'll see that the diploma has a lot more mandatory units than the award, which has only 2 mandatory units. You can deliver those units in whichever way you want to. You might want to deliver them a unit a term. You might want to run some units longer over terms 1, 2 and 3 of the whole academic year. You might want to run units in conjunction with each other. It very much is your choice in your professional judgment, and how this qualification fits in with your curriculum and timetabling and staffing and so on and so forth. A variety of units there, as you can see, colleagues, all drawing on the skills, all vocationally contextualised, relevant to sport, fitness, health and well-being. As you drill down into the units, when you've chosen your units, you will see that the unit content lends itself to some practical assessment, some written assessment, to visiting speakers, to visits potentially. So my next top tip, I think, would be to be as creative as you can with the curriculum. The BTEC qualification is, and I'm bound to say this, aren't I, but I truly believe this, that is a qualification that will allow for creativity of assessment methodologies, will allow students to demonstrate transferable skills, will increase confidence at level 2, will offer options for career and further study options, because at 16 it's difficult to know what you ultimately want to do with your career. Internationally recognised qualification, which I think is important in the international space for our students and learners because of the transient nature of some of our students, and will also allow for exploration and demonstration of skills that they might have picked up in GCSE PE, for example, and to allow for units that can be built upon should the students decide that they wanted to move on to level 3. So something like anatomy unit 7, for example, is a basic sport related unit that they may have touched upon within IGCSE PE, and can be further developed as they move on to level 3, if that's, or indeed if they go to work in a fitness provider or within a sporting context. Some basic knowledge of anatomy and physiology is extremely useful. Then you've got units like 15 and 16, which are outdoor and adventurous activities and exped experience. So if your cohort and your centre does a lot of D&E work, for example, Duke of Edinburgh work, or indeed takes students on expeditions, or does a lot of outside sport, fitness, context-based work, then units 15 and 16 might be ideal. You've got planning and leading sports events, which is a great unit to bring students together, to really get students working as a team. Varied ways of communicating. Leadership in sports, so if you have any mentoring programs offered to the students, then Unit 6 can draw upon some of that experience that they've gained in other qualifications that they're studying. And then, of course, Unit 5 practical sport, which is mandatory for all of the sizes, which ensures that practical element is still embedded, though there is opportunity for practical in other units as well. So I'd really encourage you, colleagues, to think about the units that you're going to offer, to reflect on units you may already be offering. Think about your cohort, think about your resources, and drill into those in the unit specification, having a look at the content and the opportunities. Some units may overlap slightly in content, so there may be units that you run concurrently, for example, and to explore which units may give the best results for students moving forward. So some work, I think, to do around that, either when you're onboarding with the qualification, or indeed you're delivering the qualification already. So the specification is a document that you should use on a daily basis, well, on a regular basis. I'm going to just share with you where the specification is located, colleagues. So I'm going to come off the PowerPoint in a minute or two. But it really is a useful key document. And I would really advise you all, colleagues, to have a central repository where you're sharing all of these documents and it's accessible to the whole of the team moving forward. So I'm going to stop that share now, colleagues, and then I'm going to, hopefully, by the wonders of technology, just give me a moment, colleagues. I'm just going to put us onto the website. And because this is a pre-record, it's great because this slight delay may, of course, be edited out, but there we go. So hopefully you can see that now, colleagues. So this is the Pearson International Level 2 webpage, and I put the link on the first slide for you. All the web pages are laid out in the same way. So the specification that we were talking about, you would just download from here. Make sure that you're working with the right version. If there are any updates, it will say new update on the side there. And make sure that you are working with the level 2 2022, because we updated in 2022 the specification and the qualification. So make sure that you're working with that 2022 version. So you would download the specification from there, colleagues. And I'm hoping that you can still see that on the screen, because that is the specification. So there's a good few pages, and I'm not going to go through them all, colleagues, but I just wanted to just draw your attention to a couple of things within the specification that I hope will assist you. And I hope that's still sharing there. So on screen. Okay. So I've got some tech support. So Ellie, just tell me if you can't see that specification, won't you? Drop me a chat. Okay. Because I'll pop it back up on screen if we can't. So just bear with me a second, colleagues. Yes, that's brilliant. Thank you. Technology is with me today. If at any point I go off camera, colleagues, I wanted to come on camera because I wanted to show you I wasn't an AI bot. But if I do go off camera, it's just pulling a bit on the bandwidth. But I'm still with you. So at the moment I'm here and on camera. So each unit has, and if we just, I've just taken this unit for ease, which is just our unit number 1. Learning aims. So some units will have 4 learning aims. Some units will have 3 learning aims. Used to be outcomes, now they're aims. We have each learning aim broken down into key content areas. This is what we want the students to know. This is what we're going to teach our students. This unit is assessed by a Pearson set assignment. So remember, units 1, 2 and 3 in the level 2 specification or PSA units. Pearson set assignment units. We then have the unit content that we're going to deliver to students, practically written, sharing ideas, YouTube clips, TED Talks, however we teach our content. And this is all around training and fitness and the principles of fitness testing. We then got our assessment criteria, which are our pass, merit and distinction. So BTEC qualification is assessed. We give the grades pass, merit or distinction. And each learning aim has a set of pass, merit and distinction criteria, but some of the distinction may umbrella two learning aims. So in this case, learning aims A and B, they have one distinction. So the analysis of fitness testing for selected sports performer. My next top tip would be on really understanding what the command words mean in the context of the unit. So when I start teaching a unit, I always spend some time unpicking the command words and talking to students about what a description is needing in the context of the unit. So describing those fitness tests, describing different aspects of skill-related fitness, and then moving on to what an explanation may involve and add to and enhance that description. So why is an explanation different to a description? And then moving further on, what an analysis may look like. So, you know, what do we need? What do we expect to see as part of an analysis of those chosen fitness tests? How we plan those, how we outline those, how we administer. So I spent some time really focusing on the command words, and we return to those time and time again in starter activities, in plenary activities, because the students really need to know that it's not necessarily the amount of work they produce, it's the depth of work and the understanding they show in relation to those command verbs. And to help you guide the students even further, and indeed when you come to mark the student work, you have this essential information for assessment decisions. So this forms part of your marking rubric, if you like. Okay, so you need to think here about what do I want the students to produce for pass, merit, distinction for each of the learning aims. These build upon what we were just talking about there, about, you know, in relation to the command words. So for pass, you've got the description, and then you've got all of the information that you are expecting students to produce. And you can share this with students. You could formulate a handy checklist. So when it comes to summative assessment, the students are exactly aware or entirely aware of what you require in terms of evidence. And you will see that we assess holistically. So not all of the unit content is assessed. We assess holistically. So for merit, learners are producing an explanation and then an analysis for the distinction. For the D1, the ABD1, because the distinction umbrellas two learning aims. And then you've got the same for learning aim C. You've got some information about the assessment controls, the guidance, because this is a PSA unit, Pearson Set Assignment. You've got some information about links to other units, which is useful when you're planning. You've got some guidance on employer involvement. You know, you could invite a guest speaker, a visit to a fitness facility or a leisure facility, for example, really highlights how fitness testing is done in a vocational setting. It can really bring that to life for students. Then you've got opportunities for transferable employability skills, which is great, this information, to put this in the student handbook, you know, and communicate that, because, you know, parents are asking, you know, why should my son or daughter study this course, and where does it take them? So it's always good to pick up on those, for sure. You'll see that all units are laid out in the same way. And at the back of the specification, this is why it's such a useful document to look at holistically, not just for your own units. The glossary of terms, so the command words that I was talking about, you can make this into a, print this off as a Word doc, make it matching exercise, get these blown up and put round on A3 and laminated, put around the teaching space. You can do lots and lots of really creative things with command words. So some exemplars in the back there of the definitions. There's also different types of assessment methods. Now, with a PSA, Pearson Set Assignment, for units 1, 2 and 3, for the level 2, we don't alter anything, okay? But for our authorised assignment brief units, units 4 to 16, we can alter the assessment method, okay? There's some ideas there. And then further up, you have what I was talking about earlier, about working out the qualification grade and some worked examples of how you work out the points for the summative assessment. So we're not talking formative assessment here. So we formatively assess and give lots and lots of practice assignment and assessments before we launch the summative, the proper assignment, whether that's the PSA or your amended authorised assignment brief. This is how the qualification is brought together. And the grades, the point threshold that students need to get. So for a level 2 pass for an award, it's 48 points, but students, if they get 90 points, will go up to a distinction star. So all of the unit grades accumulate to make an overall qualification grade. Students will get 2 grades if it's a diploma, but you'll see the points are increased because it's a larger size qualification. So that's really useful to keep an eye on when I was talking about tracking students. And then there's some worked examples there that students can keep an eye on. Excuse me, and you can do in numeracy sessions or pastoral sessions so that students keep their eye on how they're doing alongside the qualification or during the qualification, alongside other qualifications that they may or may not be studying. So there's some sample PSAs there, which I would strongly advise you. So back to the website now. Some sample assessment material that you can download and use as practice papers. There are internal assessments there, which are your authorised assignment briefs. So those are the assignments that we download and amend. So they're there for each learning aim for each unit. Okay. You've then got back copies of PSAs, Pearson Set Assignments. So we have 2 a year for each unit. So you've got 6 practice copies there for September 22, June 23, and then we're working on, at the moment, June 24. So they're released every June now, because obviously some centres start the new year in July, early August. So we release them now in June, and they are for the next academic year. So even if you start in September, you use so if you started September 24, you'll be using the June 24 versions. Version 1 as your first attempt and resubmission, version 2 as a retake opportunity. And remember, we don't make any alterations to Pearson Set Assignments. They come as is, with the guidance and the scenario and the activities. We call them activities in Pearson Set Assignments. They're tasks in authorised assignment briefs. You've then got delivery guides for each of the unit that you can pull off and utilise. They won't always fit your delivery pattern, but they can give you some ideas. Mapping document probably won't be needed now because centres are now all on the new specification. But schemes of work are useful as well. Pearson don't produce any hard copies of books. It's all digital e-resources. And I often get asked, will there be a book for level 2 sport? There are some teaching packs at level 3, and level 2 teaching packs are being produced as e-resources as we speak. So keep your eye out on the website, colleagues. Your quality nominee will be informed when those are available. On the website page, and again, I've popped a slide at the end of this pre-record, but you've got Penny Lewis, who's our subject advisor, so make sure you sign up for any subject advisor updates. You can be in a BTEC Sport community page. Penny deals with the international space and UK, and you can book a 20-minute slot with Penny as well if you have any specific questions. Really great and really helpful, and or give you some really sound advice to supplement and complement your regional quality managers' expertise and skills, and also your team and your quality nominee, of course, but also your international standards verifier. So you've got a team of support around you. Okay, I'm just going to stop the share there. Okay. Right. Let's back to the PowerPoint, colleagues. Just give you a bit of a breather there to take a breath. A lot of information there to absorb. I understand, you know, I realise. Okay. Hope that's given you some ideas, or refreshed some ideas indeed, that if you're delivering already. So this slide really just gets you to think about how the qualification is going to look. You know, if you're delivering over 2 years, for example, which units are going to put into year 1? They might be the PSA units, for example. Remember, at the end of the academic year, all units must be signed off and completed. You can't carry units across years, okay? But you might start some underpinning knowledge in year 1, some formative assessment that you build upon at the start of the next academic year. Remember that at the end of the academic year, everything needs to have been internally verified. You've had your IFV report containing recommendations in the main, guidance, and then students are ready to move on to the next academic year. Unit grades are banked for year 1. Students are tracked. They know exactly what they need to bounce into year 2 to gain an eye on those overall grades, so that they know what they're aspiring to and what they need to do in the following academic year. Think about what works for you. I think that's important to really reiterate. No one centre is going to be doing an exact replica of another centre's delivery model. And again, this is the joy of the BTEC programme, because of that creativity and relative freedom. I know that is in conjunction with other qualifications and timetabling, absolutely. But you know, a relative amount of freedom to be able to decide on what works best for you and your cohort of students. So we've just had a little look at the specification there, colleagues. Took you a little whistle-stop tour through the learning aims. Content, we looked at Unit 1. Assessment criteria, pass, merit, or distinction, and distinction. Command words and grading, and then that essential information for assessment decisions. Ideas of which units fit nicely together, and ideas about transferable skills. It's really important to, even if you are delivering, to think about how a unit has worked, or as you move through your academic year. And questions like, did I need more time for this unit? Should I have run this unit in conjunction with another unit of similar nature where you've got that overlap of unit content? Would this unit have been enhanced by more visiting speakers, more relevant case studies? And think about in the international space, you know, this qualification is drawing upon your country or region resources. So this isn't about what happens in the UK. This is about what happens in your region, your country, you know, within your context. So, you know, have you got those links to employers and business providers? Have you got links to up-to-date relevant resources from the, you know, the appropriate ministries? Have you been able to access outdoor space, bearing in mind in the international space, there, you know, can be a lot of holidays, weather can be an impact, unlike here in the UK where it's rain, rain, rain. It's, you know, heat very often. And access to practical activities outside may not be a possibility in certain months of the year. If students are on international duties, you know, how are they going to complete the units in the timescales available? If they're playing sports internationally, for example. Are students achieving their best grades? And could that be further improved by a better understanding of the command words? Analysis, evaluation, justification. A lot of the later learning aims in the sports specification require the students to reflect. So are students using a reflective practice model, for example, like Gibbs, to work through the stages of reflection? And are they able to talk about their strengths, their areas of improvement, their challenges, and then to come up with some realistic solutions? It's not enough for students to say, I'm not very good at this, or I'm really good at this. They need to be able to reflect on that to gain good grades in the later learning aims of a lot of the units. The learning aims C and D are very often about students reflecting and really analysing, justifying, evaluating. We no longer list at level 2. That's no longer a process. They need to, you know, describe, explain, justify within their evidence. So it's really important to, when you think about units, you're kind of asking yourselves all of these types of questions and sharing that essential information with students when it comes to summative stage, so allowing enough time for formative assessment, but sharing with students what evidence you actually want them to produce, and not just capping at a pass, allowing them the opportunity to develop for merit and distinction. Because, as I said, it's not just about the amount of pages. So a student could do 100 pages and not meet pass criteria, and yet a student could do 10 pages and meet pass, merit and distinction. So it's about depth of information. In the sport level 2, we only have one pathway, that's sport, but at level 3, we've got 5 pathways. So, but it is important to consider the size of qualification, award, certificate, extended certificate, or diploma, which is relevant, what is relevant to your centre. Consider the units you're delivering and ensure that learners are registered correctly. So make a friend of the exams officer and make sure that students are being registered correctly, because if they're not, that can cause a lot of issues further on down the line. And just some thought questions, I suppose, thought-provoking questions that is really handy to have again on screen and kind of discuss as a team. Which units you'll be delivering, who's going to be the internal verifier, the critical friend, how we're going to work with the Pearson set assignments that have got some time guidance with them, where they're going to be placed in the academic year, and is that going to be not too far to the end of the academic year when students go off for high days and holidays, and they might need to come back to add things for resubmission. So you want everything done and dusted by the end of the academic year, so don't leave back-end assessments too late in the year. And of course, in the international space, the end of that year, the end of the academic year might be much sooner than it is in the UK, depending on where you are in the globe. External links, those real work contacts. Ask parents at interview night, have you any contacts? Or indeed, can you help out in any way on the programme? Very often you'll get some pleasant surprises where parents or guardians can be of real assistance or have contacts that can be really, really useful and can really add that USP, that unique selling point to your programme and bring it alive. I think, that's really important to do with the BTEC qualification, is bringing the qualification alive. You probably have paused me there, I don't think. Okay, so Pearson set assignments brought in to maintain standardisation across the globe for international standards verifiers and for quality assurance purposes. Remember, we don't have any exams. In the UK, there are exams in BTEC programmes now. So if you speak to colleagues who are teaching BTEC in the UK, they'll tell you that there are exams. In the international space. It's Pearson set assignments. 2 available for each unit every year, available from June of that year. There is guidance for exams, conditions, timing, supervision. And it's they are guidance, but they will give you a really good steer on that controlled assessment element. Units 1, 2 and 3 for our sports qualification. You don't write the assignment briefs for these, you don't amend them. They will be sent to you and on the website. And those are the units as part of the standards verification process will be looked at. And remember, in the international space, we can look at units they don't have to be fully completed units. But your international standards verifier will discuss their sampling requests and requirements with you when they get in touch. And we're November now, 2024, so expect standards verifiers to be getting in touch, you know, over the next couple of weeks. And they will get in touch with the named person on the BTEC EdExcel online, and that may well be your quality nominee. So if you don't know who your quality nominee is, or your exams officer, or indeed your head of centre, then make sure you do, because BTEC will contact, your standards verifier rather, will contact that named person. And then that will be filtered down to whoever is head of department, or it could be yourself, you know, is working on that team. Internal verification, which is your internal quality assurance process. You don't need to internally verify Pearson set assignments, but you will need to internally verify the marked learner work, so the assessment decisions. Some Pearson set assignments build on knowledge from other units, but when you have decided on the size of your qualification, and indeed which units you're doing, which will determine the amount of Pearson set assignments you will do, when you drill down into them, some of them, you know, I mean, unit 1 is fitness testing. It's a, you know, a building, a foundation for other units, if you like. But you decide when you want to place those and where you want to place them in your programme of delivery. So I definitely pause me now, because, you know, if you're sort of working through this pre-record with your team, a really good opportunity now to pick a PSA unit and have a look and have a discussion around that PSA, you know, that unit, and think about all the things that we've just been talking about. And I think really importantly would be that last bullet point, I think, for me. How will you prepare your learners for that type of assessment? And the key is really practice, 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 you know, having all of those practice PSAs to hand, exploring doing some time-constrained writing with our students, and really thinking about how the students can get the best possible outcomes. And that's going to be being better prepared, you know, with a resource list, with a good set of notes, so that when they go into the timed controlled periods, assessment periods, they're not wasting time looking for information. They've got it there because they've got a really comprehensive set of notes. They've got some good feedback from their past practice papers. They've got a good resource list. They know how to write a good report. They know how to do a good client consultation, so on and so forth. So really preparation is the key, would be my top tip for Pearson set assignments. So welcome back, colleagues, if you've paused me. Let's move on to creating engaging sessions, shall we? Thinking about how, and again, you're professionals, you know how to teach and to educate. I'm not here to tell you how to do that, but just give you some thoughts and prompts really to think about. So thinking about this term of blended learning, about students accessing not just chalk and talk, not didactic teaching, but being able to work with their peers, being able to access TED Talks, YouTube clips, debates, discussions, thinking about how you're going to deliver the content, really, and how you're going to work with that formative and knowledge and skills. Making sure that students utilise that feedback ready for when you launch the summative assignment and assessments. And there are some delivery plans and exemplar schemes of work, as I pointed out earlier, but they are exemplars, but they will give you some ideas to enhance or supplement the delivery of content and the way in which the topics could be delivered and conveyed. It's not always practical to take students out on a visit every week, but could you be thinking about visiting speakers, use of case studies, pre-recorded Zooms that you could play to students from local organisations that you could use as a debate and discussion prompt or stimulus material? How practically units can be delivered, and from that then how can those practical elements be evaluated and fed back on and linked into the unit content. Thinking about those external links and active learning, because I think, well, I know, at any level, I'm not even just going to say at level 2, the ability for students to demonstrate their skills and knowledge and experiences is so important. And it's probably going to be quite different than what they may have experienced before in their prior learning, in IGCSEs or other programmes. So it's trying to build up their confidence and offering different ways that students can demonstrate the evidence. So presentation skills, thinking about how you've got a presentation protocol for your course, 5 or 6 bullet points, arrive 5 minutes early, always produce a set of presenter notes, make sure that there's not too much information on the slides, embed some links. So some sort of guidance for you as a course, as a sport course, that you would expect from all your students, which, depending on which, no matter what unit they're presenting on. You got some guidance about writing reports. Do you want an abstract, an introduction, a main body, and a conclusion, and a bibliography or a reference list? What does a report mean? Is it a match report or is it a business report? It's really thinking about how you can develop those skills as well as the student's ability to more actively learn. And technology, of course, is upon us. The genie is out of the bottle with AI and ChatGPT and other large language models. So how do we work with that in a coursework-based course? What are your protocols around that? What's your guidance around that? Do you allow students to explore and experiment with it? What are your policies around plagiarism? And how do you tackle that to avoid all 20 in your group producing exactly the same piece of work that they've downloaded from a chatbot, for example? And I'm not saying these things don't have their place, because AI is making great differences in medicine and indeed in the world of sport. So I have a bank of resources around AI and its impact on sport, you know, so I really contextualise it. We talk about that, we discuss that, the pluses and the minuses, and how when I assess students, I'm after what they know, not what somebody else knows, and I'm after specifics rather than a general overview, which of course is what a lot of these chatbots will produce, is quite a generic piece of work that sometimes or very often doesn't answer the question. So we need to think about that as educators in a coursework-based qualification. Holistic assessments. So our learners should be given every opportunity to access the pass, merit, distinction, understanding the command verb and the evidence, and have the opportunity to meet all grading criteria within a learning aim. So we don't just have an assignment for pass only. Okay, we allow the merit and distinction within that assignment. Because when we cap students at a pass, and we only ever do that for a retake is capped at a pass, and that comes after a first attempt, then a resubmission, then a retake. You know, if we cap students at a pass, as used to happen in the past in previous iterations of the qualification, we're not allowing students to develop. We're not providing a really holistic assessment. And of course, our students who gain a pass, an overall pass, that might be the only pass they've ever achieved. So I'm not decrying a pass grade here, colleagues. But what I'm saying is, in another unit, they may gain a merit and distinction. So it's about offering opportunity, holistic opportunity for assessment. So this is where you get the opportunity to, again, to pause me, is to think about any unit from your specification, and think about how you're going to make it vocational, how you're going to embed those external links, and the types of evidence you want students to produce. So here I'd be thinking about a unit that isn't a PSA, you know, so thinking about the authorised assignment briefs, units 4 to 16, it might suggest a report. You might want to do a presentation. You might want to do a blog or a vlog or a case study, or building a TikTok, or building an Insta post as part of the evidence, portfolio of evidence that students are, that you're asking them to produce. It might be a risk assessment. Not everything has to be a report. There is lots and lots of other ways to evidence and offer students as part of their assessments. And when I'm planning a programme, either with my own team or teams that I work with, I always get, once we've chosen the units, I get colleagues to think about, okay, how is this unit being assessed? You know, we're putting everything through Turnitin for that unit because it's written evidence. Well, okay, on another unit, we might be evidencing video evidence or practical evidence. On another unit, we might be doing presentations. The idea is to offer students a variety of assessment methods so that when they do go into the workplace, or indeed to further and higher study, they've got some experience of those different ways of being assessed. Not everything is written. And actually, just bringing back to AI, conversation we were talking about then, these may be ways in which, you know, we need to be exploring more than I include myself in that, colleague. Verbal exposition, assessment, time-constrained assessment, practicing students sitting for an hour and writing on a topic, because they will need to do that in their PSAs, person-centred assignments. So welcome back, colleagues. If you pause me. Authorised assignment briefs. For the first year of delivery, all centres must use them, but you can continue to use them, adapt, alter, amend, as you so wish. They're great, they're templates though, great templates. Some centres will put the school logo on them, and really build on them and amend them as they progress through the years of delivery. They will have a context, a scenario, and I would encourage you to alter that scenario. So you download them from the website. They will have a scenario already, but they can be very UK-centric. They can be quite, they can be not relevant. Some of the information in the sources can be quite outdated, 2010. For example, referring to source of information from 2010. So you will want to look at the scenario and contextualise that to local, region or country businesses, organisations or teams. You might want to alter the assessment methods. It might ask for a report. You might want to do a presentation with students. You might want to look at the tasks, whether or not you need to break them down even further. So we don't alter the assessment criteria or the title of the unit, the name of the unit. We can alter a lot of other things, amend a lot of other aspects of the authorised assignment brief. We might want to make that checklist of evidence part on an authorised assignment brief. We might want to make that more explicit and clearer guidance for students. And we might want to either add sources of information or amend sources of information. Brian Mack and Top End Sports, Wikipedia have their day. We want to be relevant, current, and country or region relevant. They're not Pearson set assignments, but they are authorised assignment briefs. And again, I've popped the link where you can download them all from there. And again, here is where you might want to pause me yet again, where you have a look at, as a team, an authorised assignment brief. And you do some work around amending, adapting, adding to, and making it really robust and fit for purpose. I'll just give you a little caveat of thoughts, really, in terms of evidence, in terms of it, of the evidence being valid and vocationally relevant. So the evidence that you're asking students to produce must be valid and vocationally relevant. It must be sufficient so that you as an educator can confidently award a pass, merit or distinction. It's met all the assessment requirements, that it's authentic, no evidence of plagiarism or collusion or AI, that it's reliable, it's producing consistent, reliable evidence, and that it's practicable, that it's achievable for the students to produce. I popped it there on the screen, the latest guide to internal assessment, which is available on the website now. which again is definitely worth revisiting, just to check that what you're producing is robust and relevant and is compliant, that you are adhering to resubmission rules, which the Pearson rules are resubmission, so a second attempt, if you like, within 15 working days, but you can have a policy that's shorter than that. It can be 5 working days, for example. But the maximum is up to 15 working days for a student to, give their work in again. But that very often you're on to the next topic, you're on to the next assignment. So I've always gone with a shorter than that. But if it's in your policy, just make sure it states somewhere in your policy, your BTEC policies and procedures, that the student has signed to say it's authenticated, it's their work, and that if you're offering a resubmission, that students can go off and do that without any extra feedback from you as the teacher, because you've done all that in the formative stage. You're really hoping that first attempt the students are getting the best grade possible, but they may have missed a pass out, they may have missed a merit out, and you want to give them that second bite of the cherry, that second opportunity. And as long as it's compliant, that they've met the original deadlines, and it's not extenuating circumstance, because extenuating circumstance, colleagues, is slightly different. That overrules those rules. If somebody's had an accident, for example, and genuinely can't hand something in, then that would be extenuating circumstances. But all of that guidance is within your internal centre guide, which is updated every year, and that's a screenshot of what you're looking for. Access that from the quality nominees or directly looking at the website. A question that you can do amongst yourselves as a team: what happens if a learner still does not meet pass criteria after resubmission? So they've had first go, they've had second attempt, we're on to retake, which is capped to pass, which is a different assignment. But again, that is all clearly signposted within that guide to internal assessment. You also have another guide that is really, really useful, colleagues. That is the Internal Verification Centre Guide. Again, I've updated what it looks like on the page. So just make sure you're working with the latest versions, colleagues. But internal verification remains much the same as it has done for the past few years. This is your internal quality assurance process. So the majority of what you do is internally quality assured. The external quality assurance comes from your international standards verifier. So with internal verification, we want to know that what you're awarding is valid and reliable and authentic. It's a centre-based quality assurance process where you internally verify amended authorised assignment briefs, AABs, and you're internally verifying marked learner work assessment decisions. It's not a tick box exercise. It's very much a critical friend exercise. If you amend an authorised assignment brief, for example, then a colleague would internally verify that to say it's fit for purpose and ready to go out. Remember, we only internally verify summative assessments. Likewise, when you have a batch of work come in, you mark it, and then within that marking period, you give a portion of those assignments to your critical friend, to your internal verifier, to check that they can clearly see why you've awarded a pass without distinction, that you've annotated the work, that you've given good feedback, It's not a second marking exercise. It's just another pair of eyes to check that quality is happening, that the standards are being met. There is internal verification paperwork and templates, and I'll show you those in a moment or two on the website. Roles and responsibilities, and I guess if you're listening to this, this could be what you know and do already, but if you're planning a course, it's useful as an aid memoir, that we can be called a number of things: educators, assessors, teachers, tutors, and those are our responsibilities in the grand scheme of the qualification. We then have internal verifiers. So again, an internal verifier can be so I could be teaching Unit 1 and have an internal verifier who teaches Unit 2, and then we might swap roles. So I might be the internal verifier for Unit 2, and my colleague might be the educator of Unit 2. So just remember that you don't internally verify your own work. And indeed, if you are a very small centre, you might well need to look to how the internal verification process is going to work. Do you need to buy in an internal verifier? Do you need to work with another centre maybe within your group? Does it need to be, another BTEC assessor who's familiar with the standards and the way of BTEC assessment? So these are all things to think about if you've got quite a small team. Indeed, a quality nominee or exams officer can be a teacher and can be an internal verifier. So people can hold multiple roles in a BTEC qualification. You might have a lead internal verifier, a programme leader, a head of a course. And they may hold an overview of the internal verification process and produce a plan, mapping all units and all students and all assignments across the academic year as part of their quality assurance calendar. So again, a lead IV or a programme manager can also be an assessor and an IV. So people can hold those multiple roles. Remember, it's a centre-wide course process. Supportive, non-threatening, critical friend. I use that term quite often. Timely. Don't leave all internal verification to the end of the term. Do it as part of your marking time. Marking turnaround. Do it as an ongoing process. Because the standards verifier will want to see that is happening, that it's not all back-ended to the end of the year, for example. That's a screenshot of the template for the IV of assignment briefs. I'll show you where to find those in a minute on the website. It's a fairly straightforward form, and again, this paperwork, the assessment paperwork and the internal verification paperwork needs to be kept for 3 years, but students can have their work back 12 weeks after certification. Internal verification of assessment decisions. Again, I've popped a screenshot on the slide there. This is where your IV is looking for annotation, signposting of A.P1, where the students met the assessment criteria, and developmental feedback, a feedback feed-forward approach, SPAG, things like that they're commenting on. And of course, there's no evidence of collusion or plagiarism. If you're going to reuse an assignment brief from the previous year, make sure that dates and deadlines tie up, but also, top tip here, alter the assessment method or the scenario slightly. because we want to avoid assignments being sold on essay mills and siblings giving assignments to others and peers and sharing like that, you know. So we want to update our assignment briefs every year. Students like to play beat the teacher, don't they? And to us, we want one step ahead. When you're internally verifying students' marked work, learner marked work, think about the experience of your teachers, your educators, whether the programme's new. You might want to internally verify all assignment 1 or all unit 1 activities, or indeed whichever unit you're running first, you know, 100% IV, and then kind of lessen that as you move through the academic year. Try and pick pass merit distinctions to internally verify, and indeed resubmissions as well. That's not always possible because students in a cohort might all be getting a pass, or all be getting a merit, or all be getting a distinction. So try and internally verify a selection of grades. Over time, over the breadth of the programme, every student will have been internally verified across the breadth of the units. But do think about when you first start the academic year of perhaps doing more internal verification initially. New staff, new ways of working often dictates that, the need for that as well. Further support and resources. Hope that's covered everything to do with internal verification. And again, feel free to pause me after that section. But some further support and resources. A little link there for grade trackers, but again, they'll need amending, but you know, you can devise your own Excel spreadsheet, for example. Learning Hub, look out for blended learning teacher packs for level 2. Subject advisor, Penny Lewis. A Learning Hub, ebooks. There aren't any ebooks at the moment for level 2 sport, so just keep your eye out for those coming, colleagues. But indeed, you know, the topic areas of the level 2 sport programme, which is what we're talking about today, you know, GCSEP resources, and also BTEC level 2 in the UK if you have contacts with colleagues who are teaching the qualification in the UK. There are resources there that you can utilise and adapt. But always remember, in the international space, we're really looking for evidence that's relevant to the country or region there. We'll get away from, we've got the freedom to move away from the dictation of UK-centric content. You have Pearson Progress, which is a free digital platform that you can utilise and may indeed be utilising. You may well have your own repository as well, a Moodle page, TeamSpace, Google Drive, so on and so forth, alongside Pearson Progress. But Pearson Progress allows you to upload all assignments, grades, tracking, all of that type of thing that can very often make life a little bit easier. But that is free. You give it administrative rights. You do need to have some, you know, have a look at it and allow some time for training on it. It's not as straightforward as just uploading your assignments and, hey, you're ready to go. You know, you need to look at, you know, how that works and how feedback is recorded and so on and so forth. But your regional quality manager will be able to advise on that as well. Students can access Pearson Progress as well, but again, you might want a system, a drive with resources and a repository of resources running alongside existing. This can complement what you do already. It's free. And again, there is a video available for you to have a look at, should you want some more information on that. Some centres are using it already. Some centres are, sorry, I won't play that now on the pre-record. I'll let you do that. Sorry, I want to stop that. Sorry. Sorry, that bit might have to make the cutting room floor, that bit. But you can, play the video from the slides, colleagues. But do, if you have any questions around Pearson Progress, some centres are using it already. Some centres are migrating to it. It's if people are familiar with My BTEC in the UK, it's a similar sort of platform to that. BTEC forms and guidance, and the Pearson website is obviously of use, colleagues. So just let me just come off the PowerPoint now and just share with you the website. Oh, yeah, okay, we're back on the website. So I just wanted to show you where you go to for those templates of the IV internal verification paperwork. So on to support, okay, and then down to quality nominees. We go to BTEC level 2 and level 3. So quality assurance year planner there as well, which may be of use. And then you've got BTEC assessment and IV templates. And just click onto there. And then you've got all of those as Word docs. The screenshots that I put on the slides there. You can download those into your repository. Okay, colleagues, so I think that's probably where I want to end. Let me just, I'm just going to pop the slide deck back up actually. Just to check there's nothing that I have missed. I'll put you back onto yeah, no. There is a survey there that you can scan the QR code to give some feedback. I want to wish you the best of luck with the qualification, colleagues, and I may well see some of you in either face-to-face live events, which we're starting to do more of, or indeed online in-person events. But I hope this has been a useful refresher, or indeed a useful starting point for colleagues who are embarking on their BTEC journey. I want to wish you the very best of luck, colleagues, and thank you for all the work that you do in the international space, to wish that you will stay safe and well. I'm not sure whether it's appropriate to wish you happy Christmas, but it's never too early to wish you happy Christmas. But thank you, colleagues, and every success with the qualification moving forwards. Thank you for your time. Thank you.